All right, today we're cracking open a really provocative piece of work, the Manifesto of Omittoism by Shamsuddin Aminoff.
But hold on, this isn't just another does God exist debate. Look at the subtitle, A Jurisdictional Declaration of Human Sovereignty. This frames it not as a religious text, but as a political one, aimed at the entire cosmos.
So, who is this actually written for? Well, the manifesto kicks things off by identifying its core audience.
It speaks to what it calls the philosophical orphans. These are the folks who feel stranded, stuck between the dogmatic certainty of theism on one side and the cold, empty feeling of atheism on the other. They're looking for a new framework, a new way to think about power, legitimacy, and our place in all this. And this is where Omittoism makes its big move. It argues that to break this stalemate, we've got to stop asking the same old question and start asking a brand new one.
I mean, think about it. For thousands of years, the debate has always been about ontology. Does God exist? It's a question about what is or isn't real.
Omittoism says that's a dead end. The truly crucial question, the one we've pretty much failed to ask, is a political one. By what right would a God rule? See the shift? It's not about existence anymore. It's about jurisdiction. And here's the core axiom. The idea that just because you create something, you don't automatically get the moral authority to rule it forever. I mean, parents create a child, but they don't own the adult that child becomes. A programmer writes an AI, but does she get to be its eternal master? Omittoism just scales that logic up to the cosmic level.
So if divine authority isn't a given, if it's just a claim to power, well, like any other claim to power, it can be audited.
And this is what the manifesto calls the cosmic audit. The whole idea is to treat a deity's governance just like we would any government here on Earth. You strip away all the sacredness and just analyze its performance based on rational standards.
The manifesto lays out a few standards for this audit, but let's focus on these three big ones. First, legislative clarity. Are the rules actually clear? Second, proportional justice. Does the punishment fit the crime? And third, engineering competence. Is this world actually safe for the beings living in it?
Now, while the text argues there are failures on all three counts, it really zeroes in on one as the most, let's say, glaring violation of legitimate governance: proportional justice. This brings us to what the text calls the hell clause. This is that part of a theological contract that poses an infinite risk, eternal punishment, for a finite error like disbelief. The manifesto argues that this kind of extreme, lopsided risk is the classic sign of a tyrannical system, not a just one. Now, this goes right after the classic defense for hell, which is sometimes called the infinite victim fallacy. You know the argument. Any crime against an infinite being is an infinite offense, so it deserves infinite punishment. But Omittoism says, wait a minute. In any rational justice system, we measure a crime's severity by the harm it causes, not the social status of the victim. Stealing $1 from a billionaire isn't a greater crime than stealing one from a poor person. It's the harm that matters. And this simple shift completely reframes the whole conversation about ethics. We move from the idea of sin, a vertical offense against a perfect, divine authority up there, to harm, a horizontal offense against a fellow, vulnerable human being right here next to us. Ethics suddenly becomes about minimizing suffering among us, not about obedience to something above us. So that's a big question, right? If our moral code isn't being handed down from a divine commander, where on earth does it come from? Well, Omittoism tries to build a new foundation right from the ground up. It grounds its ethics in what it calls the axiom of shared vulnerability. And it's actually incredibly simple. It's just the objective biological fact that we are all fragile. We can all feel pain. You don't need a holy book to tell you that causing suffering is bad. Your own biology tells you that. That shared experience is the bedrock for a secular moral code. This creates a really stark contrast. We move from a vertical model of divine command to a horizontal biosocial contract. Morality stops being about obedience to a master. It becomes about reciprocity between equals to prevent mutual harm. It's less about pleasing a king and more about agreeing on traffic laws so we don't all end up in a wreck. So in this framework, rights aren't God-given. They're a logical construction. Step 1, we recognize we can all suffer. Step 2, we agree to rules to prevent harming each other, mostly to protect ourselves. And step 3, those rules, born out of mutual need, become our rights and obligations. They emerge from the ground up, not from the sky down. Okay, so this whole journey, from questioning divine authority all the way to building a new ethical foundation, it all leads to a final and pretty empowering conclusion. There's this quote in the text that just captures the tone so perfectly. We do not seek to kill God, we seek to outgrow him. See? It's not about anger or rebellion, it's framed as a process of maturation, a philosophical coming of age for our species.
The ultimate goal here is to achieve the status of the sovereign self. This is about making that huge transition from being a fearful subject in some cosmic kingdom, always waiting for orders, to becoming a responsible citizen who fully accepts the liberty and the burden of self-governance. At its core, this philosophy is really about the adulthood of our species. It's that moment we stop looking up, hoping some cosmic parent is going to swoop in and save us, and we finally accept the beautiful and, yeah, maybe a little terrifying responsibility for our own destiny.
And that leaves us with this final, powerful question. If sovereignty is our right, what will we build with it? If you accept this premise, the conversation is no longer about what we're rejecting. It's all about what we're going to create. The responsibility and the freedom is entirely ours.